Hi there, Ahsan is Shaw, and you're watching me on YouTube and Facebook Live. Today we are going to talk about B2G model or business to government model to reform the government. B2G business to government model means that the private businesses and companies bid on the government's projects, and the government in return mm, buys products, services, and expertise from those corporations and companies. And that's what B2G model is all about. But today we are going to focus on a bit further. We are going to cross all the boundaries that the B2G model shouldn't be just limited to the purchase of products and services and expertise. As a matter of fact, uh, the government should should bo- should borrow strategic management policies and and the policies of the corporations to implement on the administrative work of the governments. And that's what we are going to discuss today, because the government model is becoming obsolete because we are seeing so many flaws in the system. And that's what our discussion for topic today. And to discuss this topic, my guest is Edward Konowicz. He has joined us from Virginia, United States. Hey, Ed.
Yeah, hi, Ahsan Ali. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. A little cool today, but
Uh,
everything's going okay.
okay. When we say B2G model or business to government model or whatever you call it, because the term is B2G or G2B, it goes both ways. Uh, The government
Well,
model is the government and the administrative system of the world's governments is becoming corrupt. We are seeing stories, we have been watching the corruption scandals and other stories all over the world. Different governments and different administrative system, they all are falling apart, and the financial institution comes in, gets into the aid, and provides a plethora of funding, and they start printing money, and that's how the inflation starts, and inflation causes variety of other problems. So what do you think, and how you approach this topic?
I
How do
think
you
we need to. I think we don't want to repeat what we were taught. I think we need a new understanding of the
Mhm,
model. I'm going to try to
uh-huh,
get my earphones so I don't
mhm.
interfere with
Okay.
any echo, but I think people can still hear me. Um,
Mhm,
but we need to look at money differently. I
mhm,
mean, everyone wants to say follow the money. They want to
mhm,
say money rules the world.
mhm,
But I want to get to a more important concept, which is we need different models to
mhm,
view the world. And
mhm,
we could have a religious model, good
mhm,
versus evil, God versus the devil. We could
mhm,
have a scientific model of survival of the fittest, supposedly, or those who reproduce, or survival of environments that allow people to continue to live.
mhm,
But I like the business model. I
mhm,
like the business model even in terms of nature.
mhm,
What's the wolf pack providing? They're culling the deers so the deers don't eat all the vegetation and turn a forest into a desert.
mhm,
And what are the deers doing? They're culling the vegetation so that it doesn't turn all the land into a ridiculous tropical forest where it's difficult to live. So
mhm,
I think every animal, every plant has its own business. They have their
mhm,
own products or service they're selling, and then they get an income or a return on what they're providing. And we
mhm,
use money to try to measure the worth of the exchange. So if
Mhm.
we go to a restaurant, someone cooks us some food, we don't value that as much as we go to a hospital. We need
Mhm.
our bones set. We broke our bones. The doctor is supposed to be more valued in his service because he took more training to do his service. So
Mhm.
the business model is basically human beings provide different services and have different training, and then we
Mhm.
have to try to evaluate or measure those services or training so that there's a reasonable exchange. Now, in any
Mhm.
exchange, there is a waste. You
Mhm.
can't sell all of your product, or you can't
Mhm.
produce enough product, or you get taxes, things deteriorate, food spoils. There's always a waste. So
Mhm.
everyone's going to feel they didn't get their fair share because a certain amount of stuff disappears.
Mhm.
You can't sustain a fair exchange, so we accept unfair exchanges.
Mhm.
And those who supposedly make more money have more buffer to handle the disappearance of ships if a ship sinks or if a consumer product is no longer available. For example, the regular wired phones are not being bought as much as the cell phones,
Mhm.
or the people don't buy radios anymore. They listen to music with their smartphone, or they listen to it with their television and videos. But
Mhm.
the
I
point
think
is, we need
that's.
to begin to look at government from this perspective because it gives us more insight. Would
Mhm.
stockholders tolerate a corporation that is constantly going in debt? And the
Mhm.
answer is no.
Mhm.
If you invested your money in a corporation and that corporation is wasting your money, you would be upset with that. Did, did
Mhm.
that make sense to you?
Okay, say it again.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, let me up the. So what
No,
I'm
I.
saying is
Mhm.
we need to apply the business model
Mhm.
to government. We
Mhm.
need to expect that government provides reasonable service for the fees they're charging and don't and they don't misuse the resources.
And I have got the same questions. I was thinking about the same, that the governments, they get billions of dollars, they generate billions of dollars of revenue in the form of taxes. And what do we get in return? Okay, 50% of the money they spend on the public service, and the other 50% of the money, the capital or the revenue or GDP, it goes to the defenses. And I think the government model should be self-sustaining. It shouldn't be just, they shouldn't be just consuming or spending money. It's supposed to be investing it. Yeah, that it should, they should generate something. So instead of receiving and extorting taxes from the public every year, they should they should have enough resources to invest it, so the governments become self-sustaining, and they should stop receiving taxes from the public. That's my, I think it's a ridiculous theory, but okay, that's why I
Well, I
think.
think it's a good one. I
Hmm.
think it's a good insight
Hmm.
because the leaders of the world are talking
Hmm.
about sustainability
Hmm.
and we need to hold them accountable.
Hmm.
Why aren't the governments
so
sustaining
so
themselves? Why are the
yes.
governments acting like parasites
Hmm.
with
Because at.
unreasonable taxes,
Hmm.
with 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 courts and police
Hmm. Hmm.
enforcing laws that are harmful to
Hmm.
people?
Hmm.
When we talk about self-sustaining and the greening of the earth, why doesn't it
Hmm.
apply to governments and
It just.
corporations? Why is it just
Yeah.
supposed to apply to people?
Yes,
People are
that's.
supposed to be blamed for everything, not the government.
Mhm.
And we need a business model, and particularly in the United States. United States gives billions of dollars to other countries,
Mm-hmm.
and we're in
And
debt. We can't.
nothing. Yes, and
We have homeless
we
people.
mhm. All the governments of the world, they are just consuming money. They are consuming the public resources, the heart, the heartbeat, the blood and sweat of the ordinary people, the money they earn, the difficulties and the troubles and they go through, they earn the money, they give taxes to the government, and what do they get in return? Okay, part of it is spent on the public service in your countries, but in the third world country, we don't get enough public service. What do ordinary people get? Nothing. They just, I think, most of the money, the public money, they just distribute it among those politicians. And
Yeah,
the
no,
look at it from the business perspective. When you start a business, you invest your resources, and at the end of the year, you calculate, you generate a profit and loss statement or balance sheet. And at one hand, you have asset, and the other hand, you have liabilities, and you calculated that's the revenue, and that's your net income. That's how the business model works. And on the other hand, the government, it should be also sustaining. They should work as a business, that they are receiving money from the public, and where are they spending it? At the end of it, what's their net profit, and what are they going to do the next year? And I think that's how the government should work.
yeah. I think the small business model,
Hmm.
which is you're providing services or products,
Hmm.
and by your hard work of coordinating the
Hmm.
services and products, you make a profit.
Hmm.
And that should be held to government. The
Yes.
question is, why is government
Hmm.
allowed to not provide reasonable services? I mean,
Hmm.
I don't want police breaking into my house and taking me away unless I'm a criminal. And yet I
Hmm.
would bet 50% of the court cases do not involve crimes. No one's committed a crime. They may have broken a law, but that law may not be providing a service.
Hmm.
The law may be an unreasonable law. I mean, for
Hmm.
example, in a country in Southeast Asia, if you criticize the king or the queen, you could go
Hmm.
to jail for 10 or 20 years. I mean, this
Yes.
is crazy.
Yeah.
So,
Even in my country, if you criticize the government, or especially the politicians, especially the military generals, then you would go to jail for 5 to 10 years. If you criticize the religious clergies, then your head would be cut off. That's what's going on in the world.
yeah, and the question is, why isn't the
Hmm.
business model being applied to government? Why is
Hmm.
government getting away with
Hmm.
tyranny, oppression,
Hmm.
doing harm, and not being held accountable like
Hmm.
businesses? See, we have
Hmm.
a choice. If a business doesn't provide us good service or a good product, we stop using that business. It goes out of business.
Yes.
And we can't do that with government. If the
Uh-huh. It's a
government
it's a
fails to provide a good service, it should
Mhm.
go out of business.
Yes, and the governments, they don't provide us services for free. They charge us a plethora of money, and that we don't get anything for free. Whatever you want to buy, go to the store or buy the government services, you won't get it for free. You have to pay for it. Why the governments are giving us something in return? Why aren't we getting something in return from the governments?
Yeah, I think people need to think that way.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to apply different models to get insight. And the
Mm-hmm.
business model is a good one. We have a
Mm-hmm.
movement in the world, socialism or communism, that feels the government should have more power. And what I would ask people, well, don't you think the government has too much power already? Don't you think the government is doing more disservices than service?
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, the government provides us water, but we pay
Mm-hmm.
for the water. So it
Yes.
doesn't provide us. We
mhm.
pay taxes. The government says, well, we provide you water. I said, well, I pay for it.
In,
You know,
in,
provide me
as a matter
water.
as a matter of fact, we pay a lot more than the services we get. We get a tiny bit of service, and we pay a plethora of money to the government.
Yeah, and they enforce it. This is
Mhm,
mandatory. This is
mhm,
not giving us a choice of services.
mhm,
They don't give us a choice. No, we don't want that jet
mhm,
plane, or we don't want billions of dollars for a nuclear weapon. They don't give
mhm,
us the choice.
yes.
So the business model is a good one.
Mhm,
In some way, I think better than religion, because
yes.
you're expecting a fair exchange. You're
Mhm,
expecting a product or service that helps you. And if you
mhm,
don't get a product or service that helps you, you don't want to pay for it.
yes.
And so what goes on is propaganda or brainwashing, is
Mhm,
that you're supposed to accept this mandatory exchange that's unfair,
yes.
and particularly gives certain privileges to certain people.
Mhm,
And it's a rat race. I mean, we want to talk about sustainability.
mhm.
It's not just for the person that owns a bicycle shop or a restaurant. It's also sustainability for the government.
Also, yeah, government and administrative system, they should also be self-sustaining and accountable to the public, that they are receiving trillions of dollars of taxes, and what are they providing in return? And if they are spending money on extraneous expenditures, like the nuclear projects and other projects, useless projects that the public don't need it, then what's the point of spending that their money?
The truth is, let me just
Mhm,
explain from the business
mhm,
model.
mhm,
Nuclear energy, nuclear power plants are so expensive to build.
mhm,
Without government subsidy, no one would
mhm.
build them. They couldn't make a
Yes,
profit.
yes,
So the idea that nuclear energy is cheap and plentiful is not true.
yes.
In fact, there was a couple of nuclear power plants that were relatively young, had 20 or 30 years more operation to them. They were closed down because they were too expensive to operate.
Even not operate, even building it, establishing the structure, the infrastructure of nuclear power plant is much higher. And even it doesn't just stop there. You have established a nuclear power plant. Now it doesn't just stop all of your expenses. Now the running cost of maintenance cost of the nuclear power plant is much higher, and it goes up and up every year.
Yeah, and we just have to hold the business model towards
Hmm.
government.
Yes.
We want a fair exchange. We don't
Hmm.
care if there's profit, reasonable
Hmm.
profit, but we want services that help us, not hurt us.
Hmm.
I know in the United States, I would say the government provides more services that hurt people than helps them.
Hmm.
And that's been true for hundreds of years.
Hmm.
And we're not allowed to have a say in it, like we have a say in which restaurant or which grocery store or which market we buy food from. We're not supposed to have a say or a choice.
Hmm.
And we should have a choice in government. And that doesn't mean a choice in political parties or candidates. It means I
Hmm.
want a choice in government. I don't
Hmm.
like what this one government is doing. It's not
Hmm.
giving me good services for what I'm paying.
I think
And
they manipulate the minds of people by giving them a choice in the form of politicians. Okay, choose this one if you don't like the government or administrative system. Choose this government. Choose this politician. And after 5 years or 4 years later, they give you don't like the previous politicians. Okay, we are giving you the new ones. Okay, buy that one. But the machinery of the government and administrative system is the same, and it has been the same for the past three or four centuries, and it should change.
Yeah, and it's going to change as people begin to
Hmm.
to realize the small business model, not the corporations,
Hmm.
because the corporations frequently have a monopoly.
Hmm.
The small business model is important. It's so important. The lockdown or the pandemic has
Hmm.
closed many small businesses. The
Hmm.
government now is busy destroying small businesses, particularly in India. I've
Hmm.
heard, and we don't know what's true, but a lot of the people are starving to death because markets and places where you
Close.
buy food have been closed down in India.
Hmm. Even
And
it
what the
is
government
it is the
the
same here
government
in Texas. The lockdown now, we 16 to 8 to 16, we have the 8 days of lockdown, a strict lockdown all over the country.
and it's an attack on small businesses. So
Yes.
people who are promoting socialism or communism, they're
Hmm.
kind of missing the point. The
Hmm.
tyranny is attacking small businesses because
Hmm.
small businesses rely on providing a good service and a good product. And if they
Hmm.
help you, they make a profit,
Hmm.
which is a good model, which is
Hmm.
even animals. All animals provide generally some service.
Hmm.
And that's the way biology works. There's an exchange of services.
Hmm.
And we have to now apply this exchange of services and reasonable profit to
Hmm.
government. Government should
Yes.
not be an exception. It
Hmm.
should be bound by the same laws of justice and natural exchange that a
Hmm.
small business has to meet,
Hmm.
which is for that business owner to succeed, they have to help people with products and services they need or want. And if
Hmm.
they don't, they charge too much, they should
Hmm.
go out of business.
Yes.
And
I
this
think
should be applied to politics.
yes.
It should not be mandatory. Politics and government should be seen as a business. Now, that's
I
one
think the
perspective. I mean,
Mhm.
there's a lot of different.
I think the reason people accept this is because we, all of us, are the product of this system. And ever since, for the past 300 years, people are being born, they die, they are the product of this system. They are not allowed to think outside of the box. Our
Well, they're one
education
of the
system.
resources. The
Mhm.
term the term is human resources.
Yes.
They're one
And
of the fundamental resources used. Now, I'm going to take this to a new level
Mhm.
because I
Okay.
think you and I agree here, and a lot of
Mhm.
people would agree with us that
Mhm.
government should provide helpful services and products
Mhm.
at a reasonable cost, or it should
Mhm.
go out of business,
Yes.
right? I think most people are going to agree with us.
Yeah.
But what if it is providing reasonable products and services? It's not doing
Mhm.
it to human beings.
Mhm.
What if there is a natural model of business, which is
Mhm.
how a species survived? It's when I started off with wolves. Wolves are providing a service. Without
Mhm.
wolves, the deer, the elk, the moose would overpopulate, over destroy the vegetation,
Mhm.
and you would have a desert. So the
Yes.
wolves are providing a service by
Mhm.
limiting the reproduction of the deer and animals that would eat away all the vegetation.
Yes.
What if the government is providing a service to something that wants human beings destroyed?
Yes. They are
You know, people say
overpopulating.
wars, people
They
have
are
said
over.
this,
They are
that war,
overpopulating the nuclear power plants, and that's going to destroy the human beings.
so people say this, that war is good
Mhm.
for the economy. It's not good
Mhm.
for people. War isn't
Mhm.
good for people.
Yes.
So how's it good for the economy? If war is not good for people, how's it good for the economy? It's good if something wants to destroy humans, then the
Mhm.
government is making money destroying humans, not for human beings, but for
Mhm.
something else.
Yes.
So the government may be in a business model, and the
Mhm.
business model is it's not providing products and services for human beings. It's
Mhm.
providing products and services for something else that wants human beings destroyed.
Mhm.
How
I
about
think
that for
the
being wild?
the model they are following is the corrupt model, and now they have to change the government model. The people have to change this corrupt model. They have to apply the new one, the simple model that we are paying you for something, and what do we get in return? And if you are spending money, then we have the right to know where are you spending the money, our money.
Yeah, but we may need to be oriented and ask the question,
Yes,
is the
yes,
government providing services, but
hmm,
not to us?
yes,
Or the major products being provided to
hmm,
something else that
hmm,
wants human beings damaged,
hmm,
diseased, destroyed, contained, and
yes,
particularly wants honest and compassionate human beings destroyed.
hmm,
Because it seems the most honest and intelligent people are being destroyed by the
yes.
government, like Julian
Yeah, because
Assange. Julian
yeah, they
Assange
be,
did not commit a crime.
hmm,
He
because
did
they
not,
want
he
people.
did,
They
he's not
they
a US
yeah.
citizen. He didn't
Hmm,
break US law. He didn't
hmm,
live in the US.
hmm,
So Britain's holding him in prison for
yes.
years.
Hmm,
His crime was being honest.
hmm. Because he
When
wants people
it,
to think, and the government doesn't want people to think and think the right way. That people have the right to think, and they have the right to question the government, and they have the right. People have the right to put the government accountable, to make the government accountable.
and we have to consider everything is ruled by the business model.
Hmm.
The government is providing services and providing products, but not mainly to human beings. Then we get in the religious issue of the gods,
Hmm.
that the rulers are put in place by the gods, and war, which all the ancients agree, war was
Hmm.
created by the gods,
Hmm.
not for human beings. So when we hear war is good for business, it's not good for human beings. It's
It's
good
good for
for
the god.
something that wants to destroy human beings.
Hmm.
And so then we moved into more of a religious conjecture at that point. Who are these gods or these beings that make war profitable? That war is providing a service, and it must be providing consciousness. It's not providing bodies, the bodies are being killed. It's not providing labor, it's providing souls or consciousness.
Hmm.
So, is the government selling souls? How about
Hmm.
that for a weird conjecture? Is the government selling human souls
Hmm.
and making a profit off of selling human souls?
Hmm. I think they are doing the same thing. They are selling their human souls. I think we have covered enough.
Yeah.
The topic is business to government model, or the government or the business model to reform the government. Is the ideas we presented to you. Yeah, they are a bit wild. They are out of the everything. Every week, the ideas we discuss, they are a bit wild. You won't see it or find it anywhere else, because these are the ideas that we just came up with, or sometimes we just come up with during the show, and we just present it to you. If you have any questions or any views
Okay, let
or
me make
any
one
comments,
comment.
okay,
There
okay,
is another interpretation. They're not,
okay,
and we're the different, theories. They're
mm-hmm,
not selling souls to another species or the gods. They're selling
mm-hmm,
souls to be used to hold technology together. As
mm-hmm,
technology gets more advanced, instead of sacrificing animals like cows and sheep in
mm-hmm,
order to have cars and trains and planes, maybe technology has become so advanced for it to be held together it needs human souls. So
Mm,
artificial intelligence may need human souls as the human resource. So the human resource is no longer making the manufactured products. It's no
mhm,
longer the humans no longer assembling the car. Robotic equipment is assembling the car, but the car
mhm.
is beginning to drive itself. For the car to drive itself, does that programming, artificial intelligence, need part of human souls? Are human souls being harvested, human resources for a higher level of technology?
Okay.
Okay, I just want
It's
to
a
add that point of view.
okay, it's a bit wild concept, and perhaps some ego would agree with you. But I think we have discussed enough from the business to government model how the government should employ the simple business model, the taxes, the plethora of taxes, trillions of dollars of taxes they generate every year, and what do the public, the ordinary people, they get in return? They receive a tiny bit of services, and the other money goes to the wasteful projects like nuclear power plants, funding to the other countries, and distribution among they distribute the public resources among politicians. And that's what has been going on for centuries, for the past 200 years or 300 years. And if you have any questions, just leave it in the comment box below, or if you have any different ideas to for us to discuss next week. And please also your comments are welcome and your suggestions are welcome. If you have any questions, leave it in the comment box below. I'll answer it to you. Ed will get back to you as soon as he can. And good day, good night, good afternoon, wherever you are.
Okay, bye.